Minasan, Megane here, and welcome back to another episode of the deck profile, in which today I'll be going through the Thavas. So this video was requested by the game, DS game, the S game. I'm sorry if I miss the pronunciation wrongly, but yeah, the name, whatever name I'm leaving on the screen right now. So yep, Thavas is definitely one of my favorite decks, as it is a jack of all trades of Aqua Force, in which I like being jack of all trades. In the recent boost of GBT13, it makes Thavas jump from somewhere down in tier 3 lower become instant tier 1. That means a lot of things. Even though I don't know why I got trashed quite a lot for the past few weeks, as I have been going to a lot of local tourney recently. So yeah. Anyway, this one more thing that I want you guys to take note of is that this deck list is gonna be very different from the upcoming casual playroom that I will be using Thavas deck, in which some of which already out, like Brave vs Thavas and Overlord vs Thavas, in which you guys should check it out. They are really fun games that I play against, of course, and the opponent was really enjoy playing against me also. So both of the games I actually screw up my CR turn. I will still be mentioning some of the options that you can mod around with the deck with the build that I used during the past few videos. So yeah. And I think for the next few videos, you're not gonna see a lot of titles in my casual playroom, because I just put it in quite recently, so that's one of the spoilers right now. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. Let's go into it, shall we? So let's start off with the starter, which is of course Mitros. Mitros is just a very good card, as it's allowed to secure a cost for ZR or just any strike in general. So the effect of this card is on the wave 3rd or more, as long as there is any unit attack including this card, you can just put this thing to soul and pop out one Thavas. So for currently, this thing can be combo with the new Thavas, the Champion Thavas, which allow it to activate 4th wave quite easily. So definitely one card for me. You don't really need to play more than one, because any more than this, it might run around your deck. So yeah. So for the triggers, is very standard. So for the heals, you actually need to play the Refined Sailor, which is the new heal, which allow the user to counter charge or soul charge one, which is a very good tech card for Aqua Force, as that was used quite a lot of counter blast and soul to a certain extent. And next up, of course, is the stand. Stand is actually optional for a lot of players. This is where my deck style differs from a lot of the tier 1 deck, as I decided to play stand for two reasons. One is the guard power, two, Aqua Force stand are just purely awesome. And of course, these are the 4 stand trigger that I actually playing. So I actually played 2 Electros and 2 Dolphin. So Dolphin actually is a very good card at when you don't really have a lot of great truths and you just need that one attack with hit for 5k guard. The Dolphin is definitely the one for you. I'm sorry. The Dolphin is definitely the one for you, as this actually helps the deck a lot, even though it costs up soul. A leg post is actually a good setup for a multiple attack card. So like in some of the deck that if you're playing Wailing Thavas or Rumbros, this is actually a very good card to go to enable minimum of 4 attack. And for critical triggers, I'm actually playing 6. So that's not much, I know, but yeah, I'm actually playing 3 of the Sonic Sailor, which is of course a +1 to soul and +1 to your counter blast, which is definitely a good card. And of course Pedros. And as many of you might ask, why you don't play 4 Pedros, not a Megane? So a lot of people might ask, why you don't play 4 Pedros Megane? I would say that because I cannot find the last copy of it. Pedros is so hard to find in Singapore that I just want to cry. I kinda regret that I sold away my SP Pedros as a part of my SP set last time. So yeah, sadly 3, but I would recommend to play 4, as it's just a good card. It increases the attack of the Thavas and it's a free draw. So like you can replace one of the stand for one of the Pedros actually. The last 2 is actually just a simple draw, which has exactly the 2 effect, but I cannot find the waifu version, so I actually goes with the one that come in GBT13. the draw trigger with Sosha to plus 3k. This actually combo with a lot of cards like Tidal mainly. So yeah, that's all for the triggers. And now let's move on to grade 1. So for the grade 1, this is kinda standard. My deck is kinda standardized compared to a lot of the meta deck in the recent tourney. But yeah, here we go then. So first up, Plateau, Consent, and Unflip. Moving on. So next up is actually the Strider, in which for me I prefer to play 3 because not because I don't really want to play 4, but I rather have more option than going straight into the point. So yeah, 3 Nikki actually is pretty decent enough already. And moving on, we have, of course, the best waifu for Thavas deck, Millennia. Millennia is such a good card. It resists and it gives free draw when this thing attacks. So a lot of cards can play around with now, especially with the Champion Thavas. And if you don't have Champion Thavas, you can just go for Commander Thavas. So yeah. And the last 5 cards I actually play for the grade 1 is more on like how I see a lot of decks have been playing this recently. I test it out and it worked quite well. That's why I decided to go for it. So the first 2 is Chloris. Chloris is actually, a lot of people play Chloris for one reason: Refine Seller. Refine Seller buy 2 heals, and Chloris actually allow you to use any number of cards that was in the bind zone as a guard card, plus 5k shield of course. This is just a good card for Aqua Force to defend, especially the deck itself don't really have a lot of defense to begin with. Actually, I would recommend you to play 2 or 3 of it, but pay 3 might cause a dead draw. But if you want like early rush, this is definitely a card to go. This other 2 I have is the Ortia. Ortia is a semi Tidal, and of course it's give resist, so you can have a lot of play with this deck. Actually go when you play with Tidal. I don't know why a lot of Aqua Force combo go with Tidal, but yeah. And the last card is more like a wild card. So you can play Dinos, you can play Ortia, you can play Chloris. It's really up to you. But personally, I might be changing this for Chloris. So as just to increase the number of card in my guard so that I can guard much more easier. So yeah. That's for the grade 2, and now let's move on to, that's for the grade 1. I'm sorry, what the hell I'm doing. So yeah, I'm sorry guys, I kinda filmed this right after my project exhibition, so I'm a little bit tired today. So let's move on to the grade 2. First of course, let's go with some wide slot cards. So for my case, for currently, I'm using Jenga. Jenga is actually a very good card. It's a very good heavy hitter, let me rephrase it. It's a very good heavy hitter for Thavas deck, as it can hit for at least 15k without a boost. And especially with the fact that it is a wave unit, it can be play around with the Champion Thavas quite a bit. So yeah. But then of course we can replace this for other cards like I don't know, Silver Flow Sailor, Nikitas, or Tidal. So next up, this is one of the time where I actually play for copy of it. So for this case, Shipra. Shipra is just a good card. 2k plus resist as long as you have Thavas Vanguard. You are really welcome, and especially the fact that it has wave. This actually almost bypass Millennia if not for the fact that it requires Thavas Vanguard. But overall, this is a really great card. But sadly, I don't know why it can only swing for 14k. Can't it just give another 1k just for the sake of hitting for another 5k card? Well, just to balance the game, I guess. Next up is, of course, everyone fan favorite. Not so much for me because I don't really like to play this card that much. Tidal Assault. Yes. To be honest, I don't like Tidal Assault. It's just a very cheap card, which currently this thing goes for at least $5 in Singapore right now, but it's still a very good tech card to play, especially for a Thavas deck which require a lot of counter blast. This right here is actually the original Tidal. As you can see, there's no ping once button thing on it. And as you might guess why the hell I have 3, then I just say that, well, I used to play Data Drive. So yeah, 3 title. Actually, you can play 4, but I prefer to play 3 because, well, I have only 3, and second, I just don't like title that much. And last but not least is, of course, a must for Thavas staple, Adelaine. Adelaine? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this card allows 2 attacks. Simple as that. It's 11k attacker during the on-call, and that can give out 2 attacks. Do I need to introduce it more? Not really, maybe. But overall, this is a very great card to combo with a lot of deck, especially when you going for Wailing Thavas turn. Imagine if you have one champion, you have one Adelaine, and you have one elect boss. That guy the Wailing gonna hit like a freaking truck. So yeah, that's for the grade 2s. Now let's move on to grade 3s. So the grade 3s is pretty standard, so I'm just going to show you all at once. It's simply just all Thavas. Yeah, right here. So as you can see here, I actually play 4 of the new Thavas, which actually you must play it cause it's such a very good card. It's as a Vanguard, it gives resist and attack from back row as long as you play Wave. And for the red card effect, it's just a simply good double attacker, even though it's only work once per turn. But it's still a very worthwhile to play card as it's just simply good at rushing. And of course, the old Sawa is just there for the sake of the fact that I'm playing Shipra, Dinos, and Melania, and of course Adelaine. So all the combo card that Thavas needed, you need to play more. Well, other option that I can recommend it is Kratos, but screw Kratos. I really hate Kratos personally. And of course, Titan Trench. Now, let's move on to the G zone. This is where many of the Thavas builder might found this to be expensive, but to be personally, I don't think Thavas don't really need that much of a money, as many of the cards can be obtained rather low price, especially from Big Web right now. So here we go. First up, Alexandros. Playing 3, and of course it's such a good card. It's mini Lombrotes allow you to create more attacks. That means something. Alexandros actually it's just a purely good card as it can make unit hit like a truck. It can be used as a first strike. What else you really need it? Well, multiple attack setter. Yeah, this thing can do so much, and in fact you don't really need CR. You just need Alexandros. You can end game people game using Alexandros. A lot of time I test play this deck, I can use Alexandros during my first strike to end opponent quickly due to my combo with the combo of Sawas. So yeah, this is a very good card. Play 3. I wouldn't recommend to play 4 cause of the counter blast. So yeah, take note, be careful of the counter blast. Next up, Seabreeze. Well, self-explanatory. Moving on. Well, and next up is, of course, everybody's favorite, Lambros. Lambros is usually the card that you don't really go through nowadays because it requires minimum of 4 attack, but you still can play this card when you have a situation where you can attack multiple times, like when you have one Adelaine, one Savas, and one Alec boss. So like this actually helps you to hit multiple times. Why? It allows you to hit multiple times while giving us another more attacks which can hit even harder. So this is more on the optional choice, not really an optional choice, but it's a kind of choice that you must play as. Sometimes you might run into that situation. Play 2. And of course, my next up is my favorite of all time, Commander Thavas. See, I have a GR arts and the reprint arts. So these 2 cards, it's just pure good. It's this is similar to how this argument same goes to how Alexandros argument is. It's enable more attacks. Though this Alexandros do a better job at enable more attacks, but this thing is good enough as it can refill the resource real quick if you have Melania. But actually this is for nowadays I don't really go into Commander Thavas, partially because you have Alexandros already. So yeah, play 2 of this. Next up is, of course, a very powerful finisher of the Force, Wailing Thavas. Just right here. So Wailing Thavas is well, it's just a very good heavy hitter, and it's have a same situation as a Lambros where you require multiple attack to make this card full use. And of course, the same combo that I would say is Adelaine, Thavas, and Samalek Pros. So yeah, play 2. Well, actually, you can play 1 actually, but depends how you want to build your deck. So if you play more unflip Giga, the Eonius, then I think I would recommend to play 1 Wailing and another one goes to GB8. So yeah. And the last deck up is a very last strike that I have in this deck, and I think everyone should kind of see it coming. The Megiddo. The Megiddo is not exactly a necessary card for you to have, but it does help you in a lob situation, especially when you come up against control deck like Kagero, like how I was up against during the Overlord. And it's actually a very powerful card. In fact, in my opinion, if I didn't misplay in the CR turn, my Megiddo turn during that turn, I think I might have been because of the double critical on hit on like 15k for Adelaine. So yeah, but overall, this is not a necessary card for you to have. You can replace it with like quite a lot of card, but usually it's a career mental card that I would go to. So next up is of course the G Guards. The G Guards here is really up to you. It really depends on how each of the player play style is, but overall is pretty standardized. So for my standard case is, of course, I'm playing 2 brand new G Guard, which is just simply too good to ignore. Garfilia. Garfilia is as a power plus 5k effect is okay, yes. I mean, at the second or third attack in which usually most of the people will go into, this thing can guard for 20k. But it's the second effect that really sold me, which is flip itself down to unflip anything on the field. So can be damage, can be a lock card, can be anything. So yeah, that's in fact this. I'm not sure whether it can unflip the banish delete card or not, but well, that is more on the ruling side, so I'm not very sure on that. Next up, Ice Barrier Dragon. As the only 25k card for the only instant in 25k card for Aqua Force, this is definitely a card for you to have, as if you up against a deck like Royal Paladin or any deck that enable multiple attacks, this actually help you to cover that defense. Then of course, next up is more like personal choice. So you have actually 2 options here between this Ugly clone, Ugly itself, or Dismount. Well, I choose this one just because it's usually a further cost for the next G Guardian that I'm actually using, Eonius. Eonius, as of now, I haven't seen a lot of use to it because of the fact that most of the time the retire was done during the main phase. Excuse me. So a lot of the retire was done during main phase. That's why it is not as useful as a lot of people thought it is. But if you have full field, this thing can go up to 40k shield, which is a lot. And yeah, that's pretty much for my main decks. And then now let's move on to some let's just, how to put it, okay, I will just call this section a casual support. So this is a part where you can interchange certain card in your deck and the deck still function just fine, and it's just that you don't gonna pull some of the more powerful cards. So some of the option choice that I like to use here is, of course, my favorite since GBO2, Zero Four Sailor. Zero Four Sailor is actually a very powerful card for Aquaforce, as it allows you to keep true draws. In fact, if you don't like to use Jenga in my deck list, you can just replace for, well, other than Tidal, and I would recommend this card, as Aquaforce really needs some hand size. And of course, it has another wave attacker, which is Nikitas. Nikitas, at first I thought there was a lot of misunderstanding for me in this card, cause Nikitas only allowed to exchange wave unit, which is kinda sad, but for those who don't know, Nikitas can combo slightly a bit with the champion Thavas. True, though it's gonna be a bit hard to execute. So the combo is relatively very simple. First, you strike, call Nikitas in the front. Next, call any wave unit behind. Next up, oh wait, I just realized I forget to zoom out. There you go. And next, after Nikita's attack, swap around for the next unit, attack. Then if you strike Alessandros, you can stand back 2 units. And Nikita's can attack from back row. Yeah, that's one way you can play with Nikitas. It's a very fun card to play, but not exactly my favorite card to play with. I might be modding around with this card if I have a mood to play it. So yeah. For those who like to play more than 7 grade 3s, I would recommend to put in cards like Kratos. Where's my Kratos? I mean, sorry, I'm not. Kratos is. Yeah, I mean, of course, other than Kratos, there is this card, Titan Trench. So, Titan Trench actually a very pretty good card as it allows you to check your top card if like. It's more on the luck base where like if your top 4 card is or non-triggers, it actually help you filter down a bit, quite a bit. So yeah, it's a good card, but it does cost so. But it's a very fun card to play. And of course, the last option I would recommend is... yeah, there's nothing much I can really recommend it, except if you want to make use of your Gloria more, you can replace your Plateau with the normal consent. Yeah, or this thing. Remember those? So yeah, this card actually helps Korean a bit as if you can just simply bind this card and you cancel card, but that situation is a bit optional when then it's only work when it comes to when you're playing against a Narukami. So yeah, and that's all I have for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoy my deck profile. If you guys have any suggestion, leave in the comments below, and I might consider adding in that particular suggestion, of course, as long as you don't mention anything about Tidal Assault. So yeah, and yep, that's all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to like and share if you enjoy this video, and don't forget to hitting that subscribe button and the bell button to join my casual party and know all of my notification. And this is Mac Megane logging out, or is it? So yeah, actually I have a little bit of announcement I want to make, in which for the next week I will not be uploading any videos aside from the unboxing of the Awakening Zoo, which I'll be doing that very soon, and I hope that I can upload that in by the beginning of next week. But after that, the entire of the next week I will not be having any video because it's currently in my exam. Next week is my exam periods, and I kinda want to focus on studies as design project really kills me and my time to study. So yeah, that's all I have for today, guys, and this is Mac Megane logging out.